Hola a todos y bienvenidos a Inglés con Richard. Hoy tengo una clase especial. Esta es la primera clase que voy a hacer en una serie de clases que trata de inglés para negocios. El tema de hoy es frases que podemos usar juntos. Y tengo escrito aquí en mi tablet, hay muchos, tengo que escribirlos porque no los voy a recordar en la clase. Tengo escrito aquí en mi tablet, no sé exactamente cuántos hay, los he dividido en secciones. Voy a poner un índice abajo de este video en la descripción de las varias secciones para que puedan buscar rápidamente las secciones. Vamos a empezar con opening the meeting. La primera cosa es decir good morning, good afternoon o good evening. Aquí en esta clase hoy el inglés es formal, porque estamos tratando de inglés para juntos de negocio formales. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good morning everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, everyone. If we're all here, let's get started. Or if we're all here, let's begin. Or if we're all here, let's start the meeting. Good morning, everyone. If we're all here, let's get started. Next, we have welcoming and introducing participants. Please join me in welcoming Juan Martinez. We're pleased to welcome Juan Martinez. I'd like to introduce Juan Martinez. I don't think you've met Juan Martinez. Before I get started, please join me in welcoming Juan Martinez from our office in New York. Next section is stating the principal objectives of the meeting. We're here today to discuss the sales figures. Our aim is to discuss the sales figures. By the end of the meeting, I'd like to have discussed the sales figures. We're here today to discuss the up-and-coming merger as well as go over last quarter's sales figures. Next section is reading the minutes or the notes of the last meeting. First, let's go over the report from the last meeting, which was held on the 27th of July. Here are the minutes of the last meeting, which was on the 27th of July. First, let's go over the minutes from our last meeting, which was held last Tuesday. Mike, could you please read the notes? Next section is dealing with recent developments. John, can you tell us how the project is progressing? John, how is the project coming along? John, have you completed the report on the new sales package? John, please tell us how the final arrangements for the merger are coming along. La próxima sección es moving forward, avanzando en la junta. So, if there's nothing else we need to discuss, let's move on to today's agenda. Shall we get down to business? Is there any other business? If there are no further developments, I'd like to move on to today's topic. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for coming. Now, shall we get down to business? The next section, or la próxima sección, introducing the agenda. Have you all received a copy of the agenda? There are 3 items on the agenda. First, second, third. Shall we take the points in this order? If you don't mind, I'd like to go in order. Or if you don't mind, I'd like to skip item 1 and move to item 3. I suggest we take item 2 last. Have you received a copy of the agenda? Good. Shall we take the points in order? Next section is allocating roles, for example, secretary, participants. Juan has agreed to take the minutes. Juan has kindly agreed to give us a report on this matter. Juan will lead point 1, Melissa point 2, and Rebecca point 3. Juan, would you mind taking the notes today? La próxima sección es agreeing on the ground rules of the meeting, que es como son las reglas básicos de la reunión. I suggest we go round the table first. The meeting is due to finish at 2 p.m. We'll have to keep each item to 10 minutes, otherwise we'll never get through. I suggest we go round the table first to get everyone's feedback, and after that we'll take a vote. Próxima sección, presentación del primer punto de la agenda, introducing the first item on the agenda. So let's start with the sales figures. So the first item on the agenda is the sales figures. Juan, would you like to kick off? Martin, would you like to introduce this item? Shall we start with the first item? Good. Juan will introduce our plans for the merger, and then we will discuss the implications. Próxima sección, closing the item, or closing an item. I think that covers the first item, or I think that covers the second item, or I think that covers this item. Shall we leave that item? If nobody has anything else to add, I think that covers the important points of the merger. Siguiente sección, next item. Let's move on to the next item. The next item on the agenda is the sales figures. Now we come to a question of the sales figures. Now let's move on to the next item. We've been having a bit of a personnel crunch recently. La próxima sección is giving control to the next participant. I'd like to hand over to Mark, who is going to lead the next point. Right, Juan, over to you. I'd like to hand over to Mark, who is going to discuss the personnel issues. La próxima sección, summarizing. Before we close, let me just summarize the main points. To sum up, in brief, shall we go over the main points? To sum up, we've moved forward with the merger and expect to start work on the project in May. La próxima sección, suggesting and agreeing on a time, date and place for the next meeting. Can we fix the next meeting, please? So, the next meeting will be on Thursday, the 17th of September. What about the following Wednesday? So, see you all then. And finally, la última sección, thanking the participants for attending the meeting. I'd like to thank Juan, Rebecca, and Melissa for attending the meeting. I'd like to thank Mark and Melissa for coming over from New York. Thanks for your participation. Thank you all for your participation and see you next Thursday. Ok, con eso he terminado la lista. Muchas frases muy importantes. Esas son frases para una reunión formal. Ok, es todo. Muchas gracias por ver este video. Si quieres visitar mi sitio web, ofrezco clases individuales, ofrezco clases grupales y tengo mi curso de inglés para principiantes. Thanks for watching. Thanks for attending. See you soon. Goodbye.